The Collection, Volume 1, by Teace Snyder. Wind's Blessing. Father always said, wind brings blessings for garden. But for me, wind was not a blessing. Wind was my escape. Take me with you, I begged, my kite jumping in the wind while I remained planted on the ground. I wanted freedom, like the kite. Freedom so I could fly away and see the mountain tops. But Father's garden was as near as I had ever seen mountains. Only my dreams were content. A noise came from the gate, and I quickly pulled on the kite, bringing it down towards me, hoping that Father had not seen it. He told me the garden is sacred. He told me kites are not. He had caught me flying my kite in the garden before and become very upset. He warned me against such foolishness, but it made me happy. It made me feel happy and alive. Not because I had disobeyed Father, but because I was doing what pleased me. I quickly plucked the kite from the sky and hid it in the laundry basket, safe inside Mother's yukata. The basket was full, and for me, lifting it was clumsy. Father looked at me and smiled, picking the basket up and me along with it.
Emmy, how strong you are,
Father joked, tickling a laugh from me while carrying me towards the house.
The monster, he should be scared of you,
he teased, not believing what I had said about monster. But it was real. It visited me. Father set me down beside the house and patted my back. He had not seen the kite, and I was lucky. I stood at his side, reaching for the laundry basket, but he kept it, looking inside for a change of clothes. I bit my lip and trembled. If Father found the kite, he would be upset with me, and I would lose my favorite possession. He pulled out a robe, accidentally knocking Mother's yukata on the ground. I gasped and covered my mouth with both hands. Surely I had been caught.
Don't worry, it's still clean,
Father whispered, winking at me as he placed the garment back inside the basket. Fortune had found me, for Father did not find the kite.
Where is Mother?
He asked, removing his shoes and stepping inside. Resting, I replied, looking up at Father as he walked towards his bedroom where Mother rested. Should I put away the laundry? I cried, fearful as Father walked away, still carrying the basket.
No, you may help your mother with dinner,
he answered, smiling again as he entered his room. I sulked and gave out a sigh. I could only hope that my kite would not be discovered before I was given a chance at retrieving it. But first, I would be needed for preparing dinner with Mother. She would usually have it made already, but lately she rested often and left her work for me. It was not like her. She was a strong worker and a good wife. I scuttled around the kitchen, readying ingredients and preparing the plates. Tonight, we would enjoy one soup, 3 sides, tonjiru, sashimi, gyoza, and unagi. Father insisted on plentiful meals and provided Mother and me many things for preparing them. We were a prosperous family, while few in number. Mother had not given more children as Father had wanted, but he did not become upset. He was contented with what life had given him.
Emmy!
Father screamed, throwing open his bedroom door, clutching my kite in his hand. I trembled and lowered my eyes.
What was this doing with the laundry?
Sorry, Father.
Answer me,
he cried, suspecting that I had disobeyed him.
Were you flying your kite in the garden?
Yes, Father, I whispered, cowering below his bellows.
The garden is sacred. If you disrespect it, you disrespect me,
he shouted, throwing my kite on the ground. I gasped, seeing its frame crack.
Finish preparing dinner, and then go to your room,
he demanded, storming away. I remained behind, ashamed and afraid. There was no other place than the garden that I could fly my kite regularly, and it was the only thing that made my days special. I picked up my kite and held it close, sobbing as tears filled my eyes. I would do as Father said and finish dinner. The monster groaned, locked in my cabinet. I lay in bed with the covers pulled over my ears. I peeked out so I could see that I was safe, but still the monster called for me.
let me out.
Go away, I exclaimed, hoping that he would leave and let me rest.
Why is your kite broken?
He asked, fascinated with my kite as always. I called him Fujin because he only visited me on windy days. He was large, but still fit in small places. He looked like a leopard, but he was fat and walked on 2 feet. He carried a sack of wind with him and always beckoned that I get my kite and play. Father broke it, I replied, telling him what had happened earlier.
Why?
Because I flew it in the garden, I continued, thinking how foolish I had been by disobeying Father. And now it's broken, so I cannot play with you. Now go away, I finished, kicking the cabinet from where I lay in bed. He grumbled as his container shook and stopped talking for a moment.
I fixed your kite, Emmy,
he declared, no doubt telling lies so that I would play. But still, I was curious that he may actually have fixed the kite as he said. I crawled across my bed until I sat beside the cabinet. Show me.
I cannot, unless you let me out,
he explained, giving another reason that I should set him free. I frowned and pushed up my chin. I did not know if he was telling the truth, but the idea of having my kite back was tempting enough that I believed him. I reached forward with my shaking hand and unlocked the cabinet. The room was quiet and still. Suddenly, Fujin exploded out of his hiding place and flew around the room. I cried out, but was silenced by the roar of his wind. It was as though the entire house shook from his mischief, but Father did not come and investigate the noise. I crawled back under my covers and pulled them over my head. "Stop, Fujin!" I hollered, cowering under my blanket.
Don't worry, little one. I was just showing you that your kite still works,
he replied, stopping his commotion and presenting me with my kite, as though it had never been broken at all. I smiled and jumped out of bed, overjoyed that Fujin had been so kind. "Thank you, Fujin," I cried, wrapping my arms around his belly and squeezing. He laughed and patted my back.
"Can we play now?"
"Yes," I replied, realizing that I owed him for fixing my kite. The garden was dark at night, but the stone lantern gave enough light so that we could play. Fujin took my hand as we walked towards the garden. I was worried about disobeying Father again. If he caught me, I don't know what he'd do. But then again, if he caught me, he would finally believe me about Fujin. "Fujin, what are the mountains like?" I asked, watching the dark figure of my kite glide across the sky. The snow-topped mountains appeared blue in the night. I sat on the stone lantern with my feet dangling over its side. Fujin lay on the grass, blowing at the sky so my kite would soar.
Big,
How do they make you feel?
Small.
I already feel small, I sighed, a flicker of light catching my eye. A lamp was lit in my parents' room.
Are we caught?
Fujin asked, rolling away and hiding behind a rock. No, it's my mother, I replied, watching the shadow of my father against the wall. He held my mother while she became sick, and he whispered good words in her ear. Her medicine was not helping her recover. I worried that she would never get better.
What's wrong with her?
Fujin questioned, crawling out from behind his place so that he could hear me better. He watched my mother as I did, wondering what could be done. She's ill.
What is her sickness?
I don't know. Father told me to play when the medicine man visited, I answered, wishing that I had been told the truth. Father said I was young and should not concern myself with Campo. Instead, I should care for Mother and smile when she is better. But I could see from the medicine man's face that it was not so simple. I was a child, but I did not like being treated as one.
May I help?
No, I whispered, wishing that Fujin could help her feel better as he did me. All we may do is pray and hope.
Ah, then that's what I'll do.
Me too, I declared, as I watched my kite fall out of the sky and land on my lap. It was late, and I needed rest for the day ahead. Even Fujin appeared tired. But as we crept back inside and past my parents' room, I heard my father say something that kept me awake all night.
You have to hold on. For Emmy, for me, life is in you still, no matter what the medicine man said. Itatagamasu,
Father exclaimed, bowing his head at the meal before us. I remained silent and looked at my noodles without eating. I had not slept at all because I was worried about Mother. But Father still spoke with me as though she were all right, still lied as though she would get better. Why do you not eat? I'm not hungry.
You need to eat,
Father said, tapping his chopsticks on the rim of my bowl. I glanced up, keeping my head low. I could not look at him for long without feeling sad. Mother remained in her room, silent and hidden. No.
What?
I want to see Mother, I stated, my eyes wandering the door my mother was kept behind. She's resting, he explained, saying the same thing he had for days. My mother rested all the time, and soon would be at rest. I'd heard Father say so himself. I had been awake all night, dreading his words. There is life in you still, no matter what the medicine man said. And now, I could not face him. I could not face it. Does she not want to see me? I asked, feeling my eyes water, though I fought against them. I had not seen Mother for a whole day, and I had not been comforted by her company for much longer. But before I could weep or speak further, Mother emerged from her room. Emmy, I'm okay, she exclaimed, walking slowly over towards us. She sat down and put her arm around me. I opened my mouth wide with surprise. She smiled, and I smiled also. Her and Father exchanged glances, and I could see that there was more than they would say. He put his hand atop her stomach and whispered in her ear, concerned that she might damage herself by leaving bed. I decided at that moment what I would do. If they would not give me their knowledge, I could not offer my aid, but if I solved the trouble on my own, there would be no need for any keeping secrets from me. I would wait until dark before flying my kite, and then, when I had drawn Fujin from his slumber, I would save my family. Father says wind brings blessings for garden, I told Fujin as we climbed atop the roof of my house.
Wind?
Yes, that is why he does not want my kite to interfere, I explained, removing a bedsheet from my back and unraveling it. But I believe the kite does not interfere. I believe it keeps the wind and traps its blessings.
Then why have you not brought your kite?
He asked, wondering why I had brought a sheet and rope instead. Because my kite has not been able to capture enough blessings, I exclaimed, fastening the rope on the sheet. Fujin was confused at first, but quickly understood. I intended on capturing the wind's blessings in my bedsheet. The kite had not been enough on its own, and with Fujin's breath, surely a larger kite could soar.
Oh, I understand,
Fujin declared, picking me up and placing me on his back. The sheet fell over my shoulders as I sat upon Fujin's, staring up at the night sky. The garden seemed small from where we stood, as though we were the mountains, and as I flapped the sheet, Fujin blew with all of his might. "Blow more!" I cried, watching the wind fill the fabric as it ballooned and spread. Fujin's cheeks grew also as he puffed wind into the air. I laughed and cheered, telling Fujin where he should blow next. "More blessings over there." "Yes, and over there my parents will need them most," I announced, pointing at my parents' room as the kite lifted us from the rooftop. We flew above the house and the garden, looking down and giggling as the blessings fell. The stone lantern trembled in the breeze, and the mountains crumbled by the wind's howl. My plan was working.
"And what of your blessings, Emmy?"
Fujin asked, flapping his hands in the sky as we glided through the clouds. "My family is my blessing," I replied, my arms wrapped safely around Fujin's neck and shoulders.
"Yes, but you still desire more,"
he exclaimed, swooping down towards the mountains. The wind whistled past my ears as we descended. Soon my feet rested on snow atop the mountains I had always dreamed of visiting. A great smile filled my heart as I looked down at my tiny house. "I don't feel small," I announced, knowing now that the mountain's size did not make me small. "I feel happy," I continued, holding Fujin's hand as we lifted up in the air and returned home. Our flight had been successful, and I could see the blessings soar around the house. My mother would be well again, and our family would be happy, just like Father said. The sun rose after a short sleep. I jumped from bed, overjoyed by the light of the day. But as my ears awoke, I could hear talking from outside my room. I quickly dressed myself and gave a final prayer at Fujin's hiding place. "Blessings and thanks for you, Fujin," I whispered, praying that I had been successful, and Father's warning of flying my kite in the garden was not correct.
"Emmy,"
Father stated as I emerged from my room. "Yes, Father," I replied, walking quickly over towards him and Mother, sitting beside each other, waiting for me before they would begin breakfast. They frowned at each other, though they gave their best attempt at hiding it from me. Perhaps I had been wrong by interfering with the blessings. Perhaps I had trapped evil spirits and brought a curse upon our house. I, I trembled where I stood, hoping for words that would put smiles on our faces, but nothing was said for some time. Father and Mother ate their breakfast, whispering in secret so that I would not be concerned. I could not eat. I could only sit and wait. Eat your food, Emmy, Mother said, tapping her chopsticks on the rim of my bowl. I frowned and hid my eyes. What's wrong? I don't want you to die, I exclaimed, expressing my deepest concerns for Mother. Father sighed and gave me a stern look, but Mother did not. Instead, she laughed and placed her arm around my side. Die? Why would I die? She chuckled, wondering how I had gained such thoughts. Because of your illness. Because the medicine man said there was not life in you, I cried, admitting that I had heard Father speak of the medicine man.
When did you hear that? You were told to do your chores, Father scolded, demanding that I answer for my stolen knowledge. Husband, Mother exclaimed, placing her arm on Father's shoulders so that he would be calm. She is scared and worried for her mother. Do not add to her problem. She smiled and pressed her hands on my cheeks. Emmy, I have been ill lately, but I am not dying. Then it worked, I cried, standing up quickly and jumping with joy. The blessings healed you. Blessings? What are you talking about? The blessings that wind brings to garden. Last night I trapped them in a kite with Fujin so that you would be well again, I explained, telling how Fujin and I had saved the family, how we had collected blessings at night so that Mother would feel better. Father frowned at my confession, for it meant I had disobeyed him once more, but he did not shout. Mother smiled and covered her mouth. She hugged me, and I could tell she was very happy that I cared so much for her. There is life in you still, I stated, kissing Mother on her cheek. Yes, there is, she replied, touching her hand to her stomach. She looked at Father, who was struggling with what he should do. I was worried too, Emmy, but everything's going to be all right. The baby is going to be all right. Baby? Soon you will have a brother or sister, Father announced, deciding against anger, even though I had disrespected his wishes. I covered my mouth from the surprise and wondered if the blessings had brought with them the good news. A new brother or sister was more than even I had hoped for, and one appearing in Mother's stomach overnight was a great blessing indeed. I did not know the blessings could do so much, I exclaimed, shaken by the power of the blessings. Your mother has been pregnant for some time, Emmy. We did not tell you because Father began until Mother shushed him. She opened her eyes wide as though she wished the news of her baby kept secret still, just as the news of her illness had been kept from me. But thank you for ridding me of my morning sickness, Mother said, finally admitting the morning sickness that had plagued her. I hugged Mother and thanked Fujin for all he had done. I felt as though I were on the mountain again, smiling from the wind's visit.